I do now want to move on and talk about Donald Trump's VP shortlist. There's 8 names on it: Senators Tim Scott, J.D. Vance, Tom Cotton, and Marco Rubio; Representatives Elise Stefanik and Byron Donalds; North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum; and former HUD Secretary Ben Carson. What are your thoughts on this list?
Uh, Look, I don't know. I mean, you can argue a case for each one, I think, and certainly we've seen that happening in the media. Some people had said, "Look, I think Donald Trump needs to pick a woman." There's only, I think, one woman on that list. You have a Tim Scott was originally mentioned as one. He's not really on that list anymore. Ben Carson is. So I think we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think the odds-on favorite would probably be Marco Rubio, even though there's that issue that they're both from Florida and Rubio would have to establish a residence somewhere else, which I think would be not a huge problem. But certainly the flavor of the month or week or whatever we're calling it is JD Vance. His name has been everywhere, and he's been getting a lot of buzz. And there was a straw poll that was taken at the Turning Point Action event in Detroit that Trump was just at earlier this week, and JD Vance was the winner by, like, it was 43% wanted JD Vance. So he has strong support within the sort of rank and file base of the party. But ultimately, um, Donald Trump's going to pick who he's going to pick, and even the people who are closest to him aren't going to have a clue who it is until he makes his announcement, which will probably come, if Trump is true to form, via Twitter, and we'll all learn about it at the same time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Right Angle, where we're bringing you hot topics, news, and culture, all from a right perspective. I wanted to kind of lean into the VP pick extravaganza that's currently going on. Now, if you don't know, on one side we have the Democrat leftists. You have Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is the pick. They're pretty much defined. There's been some rumblings about even the ticket being erased for Joe Biden if he doesn't do well in the upcoming debates, which we'll talk about later. Or, there's been some rumblings about changing Kamala Harris because, she's just a vegetable, pretty much as bad as Joe Biden is. But, if they do that, then due to their insane intersectional politics on the left, then everyone would lose their shit and they would not be able to move forward in a very productive way. So, for all intents and purposes, the Democrats are stuck with Joe Biden. They are stuck with Kamala Harris. So what I wanted to focus on was what the right was doing from a VP pick list. There was recent reports out in Virginia where Donald Trump was, and he made a comment saying, "Hey, listen, I've made my pick. I'm going to have this pick ready for the RNC convention, and that's where you're going to hear about it." Now, knowing Trump, he's going to take that news and make it as advantageous to him as possible. So, I mean, if I was swinging for the fences on odds here, I would say maybe he'll make the pick announcement for my guy that we'll get to a little bit later, and since he's rallying in Virginia pretty soon, but who knows. And if you don't know, with the VP picks, obviously it's important for what we're talking about today, but usually that pick is not very controversial. Or let's say it's not very important to the grand scheme of things. You have the top of the ticket, you have Trump versus Biden. That's really what it's all about. I mean, really, the VP pick is really more of a ceremonial position. I mean, honestly, they do have some power. They do have Senate power because they're the leader of the Senate, and they also have what you call the power to take over the presidency, either by the 25th Amendment or by the death of the current president. So obviously they have power there, and that's where the importance comes into play. But other than that, mostly ceremonial. Now, what I want to talk about is a breakdown of some of what I would say are the more serious choices from the expansive list that Donald Trump has to choose from, or obviously has chosen from. And, just a disclaimer, I did narrow this list down to just a few top picks of my own. That's what we're going to focus on today. But obviously, there could be more choices out there. But these are the ones I decided on. These are the ones that I really think that would, in one realm or the other, help Trump or hurt him based upon the candidates that we have. So let's jump into it. Okay, so first up, we're going to have Doug Burgum. So back in 16, he ran for the governorship of North Dakota. Very much like Trump, sort of that businessman acumen, political outsider, he really leaned into that and promised to bring sort of innovative or innovation and different efficiencies to the government to that state. And, just based upon some readings of what's going on in North Dakota, that's been very impactful for them. So he's definitely riding on a high from that perspective. And, he was also like Trump as he went up against the North Dakota establishment Republican Party and beat them. He beat them pretty well, too, handedly, just like Trump did in 2016. We all remember the whole Jeb Bush thing. But, he did that, and he was also able to make promises and, most importantly, like Donald Trump, keep his promises. So as far as short list goes, I do see him as a strong candidate, especially for that region, because we got to think about, maybe not the Idahos and Iowas, but maybe and obviously not North Dakota or South Dakota. I think Trump is going to have those in the bag. But when you look at Minnesota and you look at the people in that region and how these regions go, right? So, the blue wall impacts the blue wall, the East Coast impacts the East Coast, the Southwest impacts the Southwest, so on and so forth. It's not really all about the one state, because those sort of political ideologies don't stop at these borders, right? They keep going between rural towns and cities. So having him as the VP pick is not only important because you have another innovative guy who could lead the future Republican Party, but you'll also have someone who can truly influence the vote when it comes to Minnesota as well. Okay, so next on the list, you're going to have Dr. Ben Carson. Now, I'm going to say, I'm a Ben Carson fan. He's come to my church. I've listened to many of his sermons. I've listened to many of his sort of political commentary, and he really does get the issues. However, even though with that, recognition, I do think that his disposition is not what the country needs right now. You'll have those on the establishment side of things, and maybe those in sort of the middle saying that, we need to bring down the temperature. But when you're fighting for what amounts to quintessential American life, Americana, and who we stand for, that is being changed. And we need someone who's going to scream, scratch, and bite to really step in and deliver or back up the message of President Trump. I mean, a cold or a good cop, bad cop approach could work. I don't know, but I just don't see him as a strong candidate. But, if I was to play devil's advocate with myself, you can see him bringing in a lot more people, especially evangelicals. I hate to say this, but obviously a part of the black voting bloc out there that likes to vote based on race. I've seen that growing up as a black man. It's a real thing. But I don't like for us to play those intersectional politics that the left does. I know that we need to scratch, bite, and win. But there's still a way we need to win. But, if Ben Carson's chosen, he does have those things that will work in his favor. Also, he's from, I believe, Detroit, so we could have a bump there, especially with the play that Donald Trump's been making in the city of Detroit with his recent visit to the church and things of that nature. He could be playing up to that crowd to get them on board. So Dr. Ben Carson is another great pick that could be a very influential part of Donald Trump's upcoming administration. Okay, next up, we're going to have Marco Rubio from the free state of Florida, a very beautiful state. Me and my wife just came from there, St. Augustine and some other cities we went to. Very, very great trip. That state is in very good hands with Marco Rubio, Scott, and the great DeSantis. But focusing on Rubio, just like I said, he's a household name, just like Ben Carson. If we're looking at it from a leftist point of view, that intersectional mess that they get into, he can appeal really well with Hispanics who think that way. I think he is a red-blooded American. He is serious about making this country better. Just from the things I've seen him do, what he votes on, his power within the Senate. I mean, this guy is for real and would be a very good pick by Donald Trump, a very strong pick. Like I said, I watched him over years and I'm a fan. I can see this pick being very successful, although it doesn't add much of value from a state game perspective because, like I said, Florida is well underhand. But we could see the coalition of the Republican base kind of sort of come into the fold with the Marco Rubio pick, and it'll be very exciting for the Republican Party to have him on the ticket. Okay, next on the current short list we have J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is your quintessential American story. He grew up in Middletown, Ohio, to a working class family. Some other candidates on this list also have great stories as well, like Carson, like Rubio. But J.D. Vance is a person with very high political appeal right now in the case of a VP pick, which comes from the fact that he is from the former Blue Wall, I would call it. So the Blue Wall, if you don't know, it's like the Wisconsins, Michigans, Ohio's, and all the states sort of in that area. And again, he's from Middle America. He speaks Middle America. He's written a great book about the troubles just of the people there, that are forgotten for the coast. The coast feel that they should rule the whole country, and that their opinion is the only thing that matters. That's why you see things like, hey, we should get rid of the electoral college, which basically means, hey, we want mob rule, where the majority gets to say and dictate everything. That's just not the way we were founded. And again, going back to JD, you look at poll after poll after poll, sort of from the base of the Republican Party, and he's depicted very well. And I would say Trump usually gives people what they want, and that's just something that he does. And obviously, he is an aggressive pick. Not in the form of like a Vivek. We know Vivek is an alpha, and I did leave Vivek off this list because I still think he's too new to the field, to be honest with you. But J.D. Vance is a very strong candidate and will do much to bring a lot of these swing states that Trump is leading in from a blue wall perspective into the fold. We could have Ohio that impacts several pieces of the region within the blue wall, from Michigan to Wisconsin. We may be able to peel off some votes in Illinois from a federal congressional standpoint. So J.D. Vance has much appeal, and I can see why all the interest is there right now. So we've talked through some picks that I think that most folks will say it would be the top 4 picks, top 3 picks, or whatever of that list. But there's one person on this list, Glenn Youngkin, that I think is actually a dark horse pick. Think about it. We had the Virginia elections back in 21. You're talking about in an atmosphere before the true Joe Biden came out. The Joe Biden who's invited 15 to 20 million illegals that we know about that have invaded our land. The Joe Biden who's embarrassed us on the world stage by giving hundreds of thousands of guns and ammunition, all manners of stuff to the Taliban, who's allowed Iran and through their proxies Hezbollah and Hamas to terrorize our closest ally in the Middle East, Israel, who's done so many more things this video really isn't about. So again, I'm going to digress, but we have a man that before all that, when Biden was polling really well, came out in Virginia and won it. He won it amongst the Virginia suburbanites, the soccer moms and all that. And I think Glenn Youngkin will be able to deliver us Virginia because, again, he really did win that in a very tough position, and he did that with character and gusto. And most importantly, he did that in a way that really brought in, again, that suburban element. And I would say especially for like the single mom suburban element, which is the hardest category for Republicans to win, I think really because of the baby murder issue, or abortion as they say. But again, I digress. So again, I think that since Glenn Youngkin won in that environment, a VP pick of him will be great. Not only will it do wonders to bring in I guess a fraction of a never Trumper. If you don't know what a never Trumper is, it's just a Republican in name only, or a rhino who really just doesn't like Trump and will literally vote for the destruction of the country because they do not like mean tweets. But again, I digress. But Glenn Youngkin has the ability to bring in a percentage of those people. He can really coalesce the Republican coalition around Donald Trump. He's a good fighter. His term is ending in Virginia anyway. So I think that this will be a no-brainer pick for Donald Trump to bring in Glenn Youngkin. And I think we may actually, because, Donald Trump has a rally in Virginia in a couple of days or tomorrow. I don't know. And he may just, he's been saying, hey, I'm going to make my announcement in the RNC. I will not be surprised if he just makes an announcement that, hey, Glenn Youngkin is my VP pick tomorrow. You'll have the blogosphere and the news media and all that stuff going crazy because no one called it. But I really think Glenn Youngkin is going to be the person that can deliver us the greatest percentage of win. I think any of the guys are great. I think we win no matter what, with hard work and no complacency. But I really do think Glenn Youngkin is the right choice for a VP pick. So really, just to kind of wrap this up, I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the question, right? As I say on every episode, I think the question is, does the VP pick matter? And I think the answer to that is yes. We really have to look at comparisons. We can't let all the things that have happened in this nation let the Democrats get away with it again. As an American populace, we are so forgiving. That's why the left, that's their greatest weapon, is shame and guilt. They think they can shame and guilt us into oblivion to give up our birthright, to give up our nation, to give up the ideas of the single greatest force this world has ever seen when it lives up to its potential. And I think that we're at the precipice of, do we continue to go forward with the tragedy that is the Biden administration, or do we rekindle something in the American spirit as we look forward to a Trump administration again? I think the answer is really clear to me. Obviously, anyone there or anyone listening has to make that determination for yourselves. And you really have to kind of keep in mind that, whoever Donald Trump chooses as a VP, I think really the thing we have to remember is that the VP pick will have to be really kind of a person who focuses in on the message, right? And know that they're going to be attacked at every turn. There's going to be, things at the woodworks that happened 45 years ago. Glenn Youngkin took a guy's, lemonade at a lemonade stand when he was 7. Oh, the controversy. So there's going to be a lot of stuff out there like that. And I think that we really just have to pay attention to it and really just know that the game is on. They are willing to cheat and lie and steal to win anything. We have to be standing in the light, forthright, to meet the challenge and show the population the right way to win. But, be dogged in our approach, right? But anyway, thanks for joining me today. Please like, share, subscribe to hear more from The Right Angle. And as always, stay curious, ask questions, think critically, and you will find the truth.